The Indonesian authorities are sending more rescue workers and heavy machinery to help areas worst hit by a deadly earthquake. The National Disaster Agency says about 100 people are known to have died in West Java province, but regional officials say the figure is higher. The epicentre of the earthquake, which had a magnitude of 5.6, was on the island of Java, not far from the capital, Jakarta. And in one of the worst affected areas, in Cianjur, a densely populated part of the island. From there, our correspondent, Valdia Baraputri, reports.
As the shaking subsided, shocked residents stood out on the streets of Cianjur to take in the damage done to their homes. It was extensive. By Indonesian standards, this was not an especially powerful earthquake, but it was shallow, close to the Earth's surface, enough to cause hundreds of buildings to collapse as it struck in the afternoon.
When it happened, I was sleeping, but all of a sudden my bed shook and I ran outside. Houses had collapsed.
As officials tried to coordinate rescue efforts for areas which are still cut off, the injured were brought to the area's main hospital by any means possible. Some carried, others in the back of trucks, and in constant chaotic stream of ambulances. With aftershocks still being felt, they were laid down on tarpaulins outside the hospital, with nurses treating them as best as they could.
All of our medical personnel, including those on days off and not on shift, have come on duty.
This hospital is absolutely overflowing with the people injured following the earthquake. Hundreds of people are spending the night being treated here in tents outside of the hospital building. There's a fear, too, of dangerous aftershocks.
Some fear they have lost loved ones.
My two children were playing in the house and I was upstairs getting laundry. I fell on top of this child, but the other one is still missing. My house is flattened to the ground. Two of my children survived. I dug them out myself.
So now, a race to find survivors in shattered neighborhoods, without power, without water. Earthquakes are not unusual here, but this one appears to have been more destructive than most, leaving so many villages isolated, so many lives lost, so many homes to rebuild. Valdia Baraputri, BBC News, Cianjur.
Well, we can speak now to Jerome Ridwan from our Indonesian service. It's just gone 2 p.m. in the afternoon. What's the latest you're hearing?
Yes, the authorities are focusing their efforts in search and evacuation of the victims and also distributing food and medicine. Our president, Indonesian President Joko Widodo, has just arrived in Cianjur Regency to oversee the distribution of food and medicine. But our colleague on the ground reporting that, so many people in the outskirts of in the villages, they are now haven't received those food and medicine.
And what is the biggest challenge, do you think, to try and get that food and medicine to those people?
Yes, many villages are isolated, meaning that many routes and avenues to this location are blocked by landslides, which triggered by the earthquake, and it's making the the rescue efforts is really hampering them.
And are there international agencies that are also coming to help the Indonesian authorities?
So far, I haven't seen the international agencies coming to the Cianjur Regency, but perhaps today or tomorrow they will be coming.
I understand. They did talk about potential aftershocks, Jerome. Has there been any reports of that?
Yes, our colleague, such as Valdia on the ground, reports that dozens of aftershocks have been felt since morning even. So it's making life difficult for the victims and survivors.
You're speaking to us from Jakarta. What has the reaction been in the city?
The reaction is really, people were shocked because 5.6 to us, to Indonesians, is not so big. We felt so prior to this, and 6 in magnitude. But the factors that make this the disaster so big is because the houses there in Cianjur Regency are poorly built. The area known prone with landslides and densely populated. And according to earthquake experts, there's an active fault line underground. And the last is Cianjur Regency has this surface that is made of soft soil. The soil composition can amplify shocks during earthquakes, which explains why this particular earthquake can be disastrous.
Yeah, and of course what people are experiencing right now. Jerome, thank you so much for speaking to us from Jakarta.
Thank you.